welcome to Reclaiming America. Another great week with too much to talk about. I wish we would have one of those weeks where Dan and I could just do small talk and tell jokes or something, which may not be a good thing for you people.
You know what's a really good joke? The Dallas Cowboys, just for the record.
All right. So we're going to start there. All right, we're going to start right there, start up right up front. Anyway,
I was just thinking about this, by the way, Bill. So my youngest child, who will be 29 this year, has never seen the Dallas Cowboys win a damn thing. Just saying.
Just saying. Well, that's why, because, good things come with age.
Well,
so we're expecting a great win. Maybe not this year.
Yeah, it's oof. Anyway.
I got a feeling we're getting close to a new coach anyway.
It doesn't matter who the coach is.
Oh, yeah. Belichick's coming in and straighten everything out.
Yeah, okay. That's going to work. It'll be
all
another
right.
Cleveland.
We agree now.
Moving on.
First of all, before we go any further, we have to tell you that our partner Greta is taking a little time off to be with family, and we wish her have a great weekend. And she'll be back with us soon. So anyway, with that done, I think we need to start with the disaster in North Carolina, basically over 2 different weeks or 10 days in between. The coasts of North Carolina got hit very badly with wind, rain, and Brunswick County particularly had massive road damage. People flooded here, there, and everywhere, and roads were closed for a week at a time. Even the main road 17 going down took 4 days to get it open, and that was partial open for a number of other days where it was fully open.
Well,
so as
we're filming this, it's roughly 2.5 weeks out from that event, and there's still roads that are closed down in the Southport area, I know.
Yes, they're working hard to get it there. And now we've added a hurricane going into the northwest of the state.
Yeah, that's one that's hitting close to home for me, because the area that has been devastated, and we're talking about North Carolina, and we'll probably primarily be talking about that because we live there, but let's also include Tennessee, South Carolina, parts of Virginia, parts of Georgia, all of them. When we say North Carolina, we mean the whole area, Appalachia, if you prefer. But I was actually out that way 3 weeks ago today, as we're filming this, and I was in Chimney Rock. I was in Lake Lure over the weekend. That weekend we were out there. I was in many of the other smaller towns, just kind of driving around. We were in Asheville. And as I watched that video, I'm recognizing various places we had just visited. The Airbnb we stayed at is no longer on the face of the earth. It's gone. The woman I have not spoken to.
You hope she made it.
My gut feeling is she did, because she was pretty high up on the mountain. Maybe it's wishful thinking. She's an older woman, and where she is, I could easily see where the roads would have gotten cut and the power, so she probably has no electricity. We've tried to reach her by phone and email, gotten no response. We're hoping for the best. But it really hits home with me because, again, Chimney Rock is an absolutely beautiful town. I don't know if you've ever been there, Bill.
We've gone through it. We've been through it.
Absolutely beautiful. The people there are the nicest people in the world. Another one I keep thinking about, we had this one waitress, and I always have I kind of have a thing for the Southern accent. And she was full-blown Southern girl. Full-blown, right? Because I always try and get them to say the word 10, because they say 10. I say, no, 10 is what they make cans out of. And she was playing right along with it and all that. I wonder, is she even alive? What's happened to her? So it's really hitting home with me.
And Asheville got clobbered. And the Biltmore, which is a famous, activity down the south part of the state in the mountains, that was hit very, very hard too. So
the good news is I did talk to someone that has actually been to the Biltmore since this happened. The main building is fine.
Okay, that's positive.
Everything but, because it's up higher, but everything below it, gone.
We're talking literally the possibility of hundreds, if not 1,000 people that could be killed by this. They're still looking.
Well,
and the worst part of it is how screwed up everybody has been trying to help these people.
Now you're going to get me going, right? So
let's start out at the federal level.
No, let's start at the state.
Oh, we can start at the state.
Oh, too. I want to start because the federal.
Governor Cooper has already been put on the carpet for lack of a proper response.
What response? Until
Well, lack of is
3 days ago, right? I've actually, in fact, I'm hoping to have one of the first responders come on my other podcast to interview with me because I've been talking with him behind the scenes. He's someone that follows me on my other channel, and he's been filling me in. There are unfortunately dead bodies everywhere. He thinks it's going to be over 1,000. They haven't even bothered to start recovering them. Last I talked to them, he's like, "We're focused on the living." But I'm sure they have by now. But one of the biggest criticisms he had was of the state's response. Um, Most of the response over the last week or so has been private, not state.
You know, I don't even think he's activated the guard yet. I
He
haven't
has.
heard it.
He has.
He hasn't done that.
Uh,
Finally,
but here's the thing, Bill. And again, I'm relaying what someone else told me, but I have absolutely no reason to doubt him. And I've seen separate confirmation of what he was telling me. So, for example, and I'm sure you saw this, there's dozens of private people who owned helicopters who showed up. They are in They go to the Hickory Airport in Asheville, and they've been spending their own time, their own money for fuel, everything to go and help people deliver whatever they
pick them
need,
up, bring them out when they need to
pick
come
them
out. Yeah.
up, all that stuff. The National Guard finally did start showing up. He was at Asheville Airport where they were flying into, but they were not given orders to do anything. So they were literally sitting on the ground with their helicopters. And he went over and talked to them, and they're like, "We got to have orders." And you would know better than anybody.
Nobody goes without an order to go to do something. That's the military.
So,
Now, I'll give you a side note from that. I was listening to a gentleman this morning who he loaded up his teenage son. He is a volunteer fire department and a law enforcement officer, but he has his own chopper. And he loaded up his teenage son, and they flew out there, and they've been going out and rescuing people and bringing them in. And he got called in the carpet and told no, he can't do it anymore.
yes, they've been told. I've had multiple sources confirm this. They've been told they'll be arrested if they do it.
That's exactly right. And he said we were flying by other people waving at us, but our chopper was full already. And what do they think when they see help flying over them and no one does anything?
I mean, most of the private chapters probably can carry two, three, four at most.
Best,
You know,
right?
a Black Hawk can carry what, Bill? Half dozen to a dozen, depending on the size.
Maybe 10 if you're good.
Okay, so you know, those private people were doing everything they could. Meanwhile, the National Guard, not that they don't want to, the guys on the ground wanted to go, but they can't because they got to have orders. I mean, the absurd, and that's state level. That's why I wanted to start there. That falls directly on Cooper.
Absolutely.
100%. He has blood on his hands as far as I'm concerned. And then you add to it to kind of morph it into the federal. How far away from Chimney Rock is Fayetteville? An hour, maybe, if that flight time in a helicopter? Isn't there a certain division that has a whole bunch of helicopters? An airborne division?
You mean like the 82nd?
Like the
Airborne
82nd
Division?
Airborne sitting there with, I don't know how many helicopters a division has. Got to believe it's a couple hundred.
They have a lot of resupply choppers. They have a lot. They could put a large force in the air, but that would take federal help.
And
Now,
Biden couldn't get his freaking corpse out of his goddamn beach chair for 6 days to order them in.
see, now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to see happening soon. You're going to see Biden federalize the state guard, the North
Okay.
Carolina guard. And there's only one reason for that in reality. Because if they federalize it, the feds pay for their salaries. If it stays local, the state has to pay. So that's a
So it
reality.
takes the funding out of the state level and goes to the
And they
feds.
technically fall under control of the feds, but they can come back and say, do your thing and we'll pay for it. So
Okay.
you're going to see that happening. And it's really nothing more than covering expenses for the state. So
I
I
have a
would
problem with
bet
that.
on one.
I have no problem with that.
I know from Brunswick County, for example, we sent a team of as bad as we're recovering from, we still sent a team of our sheriff's office to go there. In addition to that, 2 full truckloads of material left here to help the people. And again, Brunswick is itself recovering from a 2 week ago big issue for us. But
Well,
the one thing it's good about North Carolinians, when there's an issue, there's no party, everybody shows up.
to a point. I mean, I hate to tell you this, but I've seen some pretty nasty stuff out there. There are TikTok videos, Instagram videos of people cheering what happened on, who happened to be, by the way, on the left.
And they think everybody that went down is on the right.
Yeah, so that this is God's way because not that they personally believe in God, but they know the people there do. So this is God's way of punishing them for being Republicans. This is blah blah blah. To some people's credit, though, and one in particular, well, one, she ended up getting fired from her job because people found out where she worked, and she lives in Georgia. But it was the most vicious video I think I've ever seen on social media. Her literally laughing. And to a lot of people's credit, they pointed out that Asheville is not exactly a right leaning town, nor is Boone. And to your point, all the responders, you, me, everyone else, we don't care what party you belong to, how you vote, what religion you are. Everybody deserves help. I don't wish this on anyone at any level. But there are some out there doing what they're doing.
Well, now I have one correction. We could have redirected the hurricane to DC. I might have supported that part of it.
By the way, I heard a fun fact this week about DC.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Did you know the 5 richest counties in the entire country
Surround Washington,
DC?
D.C. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, I didn't really know that before. I
And
kind
that,
of
and
did.
you also know that it's those counties full of government workers that basically have drawn Virginia from being red to blue.
Right, yeah.
They outvote everybody.
Although this polling's not looking too good right now for
You know how I feel about polling.
Camelot. Yeah, I know. But getting back to the disaster, I mean, this has been a clusterfuck of monumental proportions at the state level first. Because I mean, to be fair, I think the state has the obligation to respond first. Tennessee has responded. I've heard pretty good things about South Carolina's response. North Carolina, the people that did get in and were allowed to go in, did a great job. We don't want to take anything away from them. But the fact of the matter is, Governor Milquetoast sat on his hands for how many freaking days? How many people, unfortunately, died because of that or will die?
Uh, you know who was the ultimate showman in this show, though? DeSantis.
Oh,
With
yeah.
all the problems he had in his own state, he put a team and sent them north to help North Carolina. He sent out a rescue team up there. And that's the difference between organized and prepared and just looking up at the sky and go, what happened?
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
unfortunately what we did. Now, I will give Robinson credit.
he's been boots on
Robinson
the
has been
ground.
on the ground over there doing everything he possibly can. And he was yelling, where's the guard? Where's this? So Robinson did a superior job in doing his job.
And then what did they do to him for that? WRAL, which is the big TV station in Raleigh, did a hit piece on him for it.
I'm
Because
sure.
he didn't show up to vote for the funding. Not that his vote was needed. Who is going to sit there in the North Carolina legislature and vote against helping people? That's career suicide, right? But Raleigh had to go way out of its way, WRAL, to point out that Robinson was too busy helping people to show up to a vote that he had no reason to be there to vote.
In a part of the General Assembly that has 2/3 Republican.
I mean, come on, Bill. I mean, but
I know.
this is the level we've gotten to. And if you think Cooper's office didn't have something to do with that hit piece, give me a break. Or Stein's, the guy he's running against. Where the hell's Stein?
Argument there. But let's add another piece to this little thing. $750.
Oh, we're going to go there already? I was saving
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
we're going to go there already. Because if you don't know it, you haven't heard. The vice president who's running for president, Miss Harris, had to take out a piece of paper when she finally read this and read it off paper. It was 2 lines. She couldn't even memorize it and put it out there. It was read off paper, and there's a video that you can look at the 2 lines of the paper. And basically, she said that FEMA is going to give every one of the people in trouble $750. Now, the other piece that needs to be tied to that is if you saw what happened with the HR department when they announced that they don't have any money left in FEMA, that they gave over $1 billion of it to the illegal aliens who are in luxury hotels and X, Y, and Z that they're getting good stuff with. But there's no money to help these people unless another bill is passed by Congress to fund it. But again, we're taking care of everybody but our own citizens.
Well, we just sent another 8 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I mean,
We haven't got money for our own people, but we can help do it around the
but
world.
that's both parties need to be blamed for that bill. Both
Uh,
parties, because the Republican Party needs to stop voting to send money to Ukraine. Enough already. We've sent them almost $1 trillion now.
was this last 8 billion a vote, or was it just money that was already approved? And I don't.
That nothing gets spent without a vote somewhere. You
Yeah,
know
but
that.
this could have been approved
I don't care. I
six
know.
months ago, and it's now being expended.
Every Republican needs to come out right now and say we are not going to fund any other foreign government of any type whatsoever for anything until those people in Appalachia are taken care of. $750 freaking dollars. That's the same crap that they did in Maui. And oh, by the way, those poor people whose houses have been destroyed still have to pay their mortgage
Yeah,
because the
and
insurance
that's
companies
another thing. The
insurance
last
companies can't
number
get
that
in there.
anybody saw was is only 2% of those people had insurance.
For this because it's a named storm. So guess what? Insurance doesn't cover a lot of this. Flooding
Nope,
is not covered if you don't have flood
nope,
insurance.
nope.
They're not going to get anything from insurance. The few that might aren't going to see it anytime soon because the insurance companies can't get in there to do an assessment like you really need to assess it. Or really? Um,
You know what is sad though about money? People do not realize the Republican General Assembly has put about 5 billion with a B in an emergency fund for exactly what this is. And the rationale behind it is by the time FEMA kicks in, it's 2, 3, 4 weeks later. And if we use our own money to start, we can get it to our people quicker. So the money was there, but they can't execute. That comes out of the governor's office.
Governor Milquetoast, who's sitting around worrying about his photo op with Biden. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, go
Because,
ahead.
so Biden, after he finally got his corpse off the beach, Jill rolled him up the beach because he was on vacation during this. Um, Decides that he's now got to go and see what's going on. So he's going to fly into Asheville and, you know, going to do a tour by air because he doesn't want to disrupt anything. That's what they were saying. Here's the thing people don't know about. When the president flies in somewhere, all air traffic around is
Or shut down.
suspended. So these people, and I've heard this firsthand and I've seen videos as well, these people in their private helicopters were told you can't fly. You can't do anything while Biden's here. So effectively, for that photo op, an entire day, it was a little bit less than that, but an entire day's worth of S&R, search and rescue, getting people out, getting food to people, medicine, all that stuff, was blocked so that
And
Biden and Cooper could get their little photo op at the airport.
and who knows how many people died because of it.
Exactly. I mean, you have to understand something. For those that don't know, something like insulin is a perfect one. Has to be refrigerated.
Right.
So, okay, if they were prepared and had ice, they might have been able to keep the insulin going for a few more days. Who's got ice now? We're a week out, right? And they can't get anything. So those people who are diabetics are going to start, unfortunately, having serious medical issues and passing away because Biden had to get I almost said the F word, freaking there, photo op, okay?
Freaking is a good word today.
I mean, come on. And where's the media calling him out? No, they're making him into a hero for getting up out of Washington and flying down to survey things.
Did you hear what happened when he got back?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I want to.
He was landing and walking back in, and one of the reporters there, don't know which one, yelled out and said, "Well, what's going on with all the flooding?" He turned around and goes, "What flooding?"
Oh, Oh, Jesus Christ! I did not hear that one.
Yeah, that's out there too.
I don't even know that he flew around, other than Air Force One maybe doing a circle, right?
Is
Um,
there any proof he was on the plane?
Well, yeah, because there's a photo up of him with Cooper at the airport. Uh,
Photoshop.
yeah, that's true. AI is a wonderful thing, right? But if you're the governor, why aren't you saying, no, Joe, you cannot come here. We need to keep flight operations going. We need to get the goddamn 82nd Airborne in there. We need to get the various National Guards because the National Guards from all over are showing up.
And there's a great there's actually a naval uh, air base right near Lejeune.
The Coast Guard.
No, this is just Navy. This is
But I'm
Navy
saying
air
also
base.
that, yeah,
And then you've got the choppers and everything
they
else.
got up to,
They
but the
take a
Coast Guard.
federal order to get them there.
I mean, you and I live near the beach. We see the Coast Guard flying over how many times? Send those choppers over. Maybe they have now, but they didn't at first. Because I'll tell you right now, I saw one flying last weekend. And the first thing I said to myself is, why is that chopper here? Why isn't it out saving people? Because they're the real pros in water. I mean,
That's true.
the jumpers for the Coast Guard, that's what the, I mean,
That's what they do.
they are brave beyond brave. I'm sorry. They'll jump into hurricanes, okay? They are the pros. Like you said, we sent teams from here. Our search and rescue teams out there. Meanwhile, and this is not to knock the military itself in any way, but they're sitting with their hands folded, going, we can't do anything.
Waiting for someone
Waiting
to give
for
them
an order.
authorization to do something. And I would guarantee you there's a bunch of people at all levels chomping at the bits to go do something.
Oh, I have not spoken to any of them, but I got to believe they're as pissed as we are. At least, from sergeant on down. I'm just doing that.
And I would say most of the ranking officers too.
But
You know,
where's the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying, sir, we can handle this. Give us the order. Sign this paper, whatever the hell he needs to do. We can be in there tomorrow. And they could have been. You think the 82nd can't? I mean, aren't they on like something like a 12-hour response or something
No,
like that?
they have the company goes out within 4 hours. A battalion is out within 24, and then you get a brigade out within 48.
So
That's the way they're trained.
let's just say a company's 4 hours.
4 hours, yes.
So airborne company, your best guess, how many helicopters is that?
Probably none. You'd probably want to bring out the support brigade. There, your choppers will be
Okay. Well, the reason I
probably
ask is
10,
that
12, 10 or 12 choppers because they're flying stuff back and forth. You can also go to, there's the 5th to the 16th is an air mobile operation they have there, which is choppers that go out and they do long range reconnaissance for the division. But they have a combination of choppers and tanks, so they can do a lot.
well, like they're still saying, by the way, they can't get in there with cars and trucks, and even I doubt tanks could make it at this point, right? It's that blocked. What we're seeing on the news, people, is not the full story.
We're not seeing the worst of it.
Right. But most of the areas are only, well, not most, but a large swath of areas are only accessible by chopper. Okay. Get that division moving. I would bet they've got cases of MREs. This is something I was talking about with my wife. She's like, well, how are they going to get food in? I'm like, military's got MREs. They could put cases of them.
Anytime a unit goes out, they deploy with 3 to 5 days of food automatic. That's part of the going out.
I mean, come
Depending on
on.
their orders.
If ever there's a reason to activate our military, this was it.
Well, unfortunately, our president didn't see fit yet, and
Well, he
and our
has now
governor didn't
finally.
ask.
And it's on our
the governor's done nothing.
and where was our governor? Why isn't he on the phone to Biden until he gets it? Instead, he's more worried about making sure the campaigns are getting done right for his buddy Josh and his
Well, in
girlfriend
personal
Kamala.
opinion, what he's doing right now is he's cutting up in case Kamala wins, he gets a job with them because he's out of work in January. So I think he's kissing up for that, or he's looking for a run against for Tillis's seat in 2 years. So that's my guess on him. But he's not. He's useless. Let's put it that way. He's
Useless is being too kind. He should be criminally held responsible for his lack of action, and so should Biden. And on that note, we got to take our break because we're way over on time.
That went fairly quick. It really did.
Yeah.
All right, people, Reclaiming America. Hang in there. We'll be back. Back at Reclaiming America again. Dan and I have finished dealing with the North Carolina disaster, and now we're going to go into a different disaster, which was called the debate on Tuesday night, a vice presidential debate where Nance took on three people and was very successful. Anyway, your thoughts, sir?
My initial thoughts, just so the audience knows, is I ended up turning it off because I was like, what a waste of time this is. Um, and it was funny. I was talking with a buddy of mine right after that, and he did the same thing I did. They really need to stop trying to cover everything in an hour and a half. They need to go like we used to have, and we've talked about it here. Pick one or two subjects, like do foreign affairs this time, whatever. But setting that aside, um, honestly, I don't care who won the debate. I don't think either one really won it. I know you probably think Vance did. I think
So
he
does
actually,
everybody else, including the Democrats.
but I mean, again, I lean more towards the center than you do. Nothing in that debate would have swayed me one way or the other. None,
So,
nothing.
again, and I'll tell you people what we were talking about off
You
air.
people.
You peoples, uh, you peeps,
You
uh,
people. Okay.
you peeps. We were talking off the air about the MAGA people were looking for a knockout. They wanted to hammer Walz as best they could, and the first opportunity that opened up is when he admitted that he wasn't really in China when he
Oh,
said he
that
was
one.
in China.
The look on his face when the moderator sucked, just for the record, but I have to give them credit. They called him out on that.
That's the only thing they get credit for.
And
And
his face, oh my God, that's a meme for the next 10
they
years.
wanted Vance to turn around and say, "Well, you lied about stolen valor. You lied about being in weapons with war in a war. You lied about being a sergeant major, which you're not. So when are you telling the truth?" And he didn't do that.
And he
And
should have.
and many people think he should have. However, I have a different flip on that. Uh, when you're looking at this kind of debate, the MAGA people want to see a death blow. They want a knockout. Okay, they want to do exactly what you make them go on the ground crying. His aim was not for the MAGA people. They're going to vote for them anyway.
That's true.
His aim was for the undecided, those those women, for example, suburban women, people who were not quite sure. They didn't know who he was, and they were going to take a look and see what he was like. And he came across to them as very believable, very credible, and very knowledgeable about the solutions. And I think he did a lot of good with getting votes for their campaign.
I disagree. Um, well, he gets some votes. Yes, I think now we're talking about degrees of separation here. Do I think he should have gone Trump? Right? That level? Absolutely not. That would have been a disaster if the other way, right? I do think that he, to me, appeared weak by not willing to. I'm not saying go for the jugular, but maybe get a few nicks in, if you will. Because to use your line, right? Sitting there, if he had looked over to him and said, Governor, you keep saying certain things, they're all proving to be untrue. Why should we believe anything you say? That's it. So, tweak it however you want, but that way. Because then what happens is that gets carved up. And that
It becomes
becomes
a bite.
it
That becomes
becomes
a
a
bite that
sound bite.
everybody listens. Yeah.
And that's not there, right? Instead, the sound bites are of the moderators doing it,
Which
which
also helped us in the long run because, again, especially Margaret, the one lady. I mean, she was horrible. You want to talk about being prejudiced in any
they
way?
both were. Come on.
Yeah, but the other one was at least a little subtler. This one was outright like she was in your face, even to the point where Vance had to turn her and say, "I thought we weren't fact checking anybody, but you seem to be doing me."
But see,
He
now
went
that's
after.
what I'm talking about with the bullet points, right? Because they've carved that up to make it look like he was upset and a little crybaby because they're not saying what he did afterward, which is basically eviscerate them, right?
Well, yeah, but if you listen to the other stations, he becomes a hero for
They're
attacking.
not the independents are not listening to they're listening to NBC News, ABC News and all that. That's where they listen to, right? They're starting to get out on social media and it's
Not
really
reclaiming
helping.
America.
No, I wish, right? You get my point, though, right? They're starting to look into this, but that soundbite is out there. It was all over TikTok, Instagram, all of them. Of Vance going, I thought we weren't going to fact check. Cut. everything he said afterward, where he just basically tore him a new one, no one's hearing about. The average person. You've heard it, and I've heard it because we go looking for it, right? We watched the debate. The 20-year-old in college was out drinking. So all they're hearing is that one soundbite, and it's being clipped, and then attached to it is Vance couldn't handle any criticism. That's my point, right? We don't have that opposite soundbite. Um, it, you know
Well,
how it is. War is war. You got
I
to
think
fight
one of
dirty.
his best lines was the Wakamo.
That was a good one.
I think that's been played a lot also. But I really think when the Democrats themselves are coming out and saying Vance won the event, he was much more knowledgeable, and there are a lot of leading Democrats that gave it to him, and the Wolves did not do a great job at all. And he looked nervous. He looked upset.
Oh, he looked horrified, terrified, whatever word, any fied you want to use. He was so far out of his depth, it wasn't funny. And I was sitting there going, this guy's a governor?
Well, as Vance said, he's got a very difficult job. He's got to defend the undefendable.
But Vance, again, I get your point, and I agree with you that he shouldn't go, like I said, full Trump, right? Um, but he should have delivered maybe not a knockout blow, but at least a TKO, right? Um, he didn't do that, and to me, it was like, I was sitting there a little bit. I had turned it off because I was like, they're not doing anything. It's blah, 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 bunch of bullshit, right? Whereas Vance could have stepped up and slammed him. Doesn't have to
And
be mean.
but again, he came across to many of the undecided as a knowledgeable gentleman who's
He
capable of
was.
doing certain things.
Your
And
wishful
that's
thinking is
important.
back. Just
It's important. It's true. And I thought about it because my first reaction was yours, which is why the hell didn't he knock him down and step on his head? But then as I thought about it, it just makes sense that the audience he was aiming at was not the mega people because they're already there.
But again, he needed to show some balls, and he didn't. To me, he seemed weak. He was too afraid to do it. Again, degrees we're talking about, right?
I
Uh,
don't. The only fear I saw up there was from the other side, and it was in his eyes. He's
oh
sweating and
no,
everything.
don't get me wrong, Bill. The other side, weak would be a nice thing to call him. Okay, Walls is so far out of his depth. He makes Kamala or whatever the hell, because now we're getting in trouble for not using her name right. Um, he makes Harris look strong. I know. I mean that is how sad is that?
That's hard.
I mean, but again, I didn't expect much out of the vice presidential debate. I figured it would be pretty much what it was, a whole bunch of blowhard nothing, because that's what politicians are now. It's a popularity contest. It has nothing to do with the issues, and both parties are essentially the same one.
Yeah,
Uh,
but you also have to remember it was giving Vance. Many people didn't know who he was on the other side.
they still
And
don't.
matter of
I
fact,
don't think.
as a matter of fact, what the Dems were labeling him for weeks was he's weird, he's strange, he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and he proved all that wrong. He actually came
I'll,
out there
I'll give you that.
himself to be knowledgeable
Yeah, I'll give you that.
and reasonable and had answers for most issues that were thrown at him.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a fair point. I do. But I'll go to my girl. Can you imagine Tulsi? What she would have done? Oh dear God, she would have, and so politely, by the way. She would have destroyed the moderators. She would have destroyed Walls once and for all, and made it look like she was handing him a gift basket while she did it.
yeah, but
Uh,
she has an advantage
yes,
that
she does. That's
being a woman.
and a woman of color, which is why Trump should have picked her.
Well, we can't do woulda, coulda, shoulda because that's over. But I'm hoping she gets into the administration and contributes because she's got a lot to add there.
And this, by the way, forget Tulsi, Tim Scott, or somebody else, right? Um, I look at this debate as a whole lot of nothing, to be honest with you. They're trying to get Trump to debate again. I think he's nuts if he does.
He's not going to do it.
Well, there's no point to it, right? They're just going to do what they did last time. So there's nothing to be gained, only to lose. And what is she going to do? She's not. They're preparing her well enough to stick to her script, which is basically to say nothing, right? I'm a middle class. I grew up middle class. Every response she gives, I grew up middle class. He's starting to do it. Walls is starting to do it. Even though,
Well,
did you
Advance is telling you how he grew up poverty stricken.
did you
So
see the one interviewer that asked her a question in about what specifically? Give me a couple of things specifically you're going to do, policy wise, to help. I think it was inflation, and she went right into her. I grew up,
middle class
middle
family.
class, blah blah blah. And all you had to do now, mind you, this is a left-leaning network and person that's interviewing her. The look on her face, nothing needed to be said. She's like, this woman can't be any dumber than she is. Um,
You know,
it's
it's almost we're almost reaching the point where I never thought I'd say this. Biden might have been a better president than her.
you want to know something? I agree, and a better candidate.
Yeah, well, the other thing that if you haven't heard today, this week they're wheeling out Obama on the campaign trail. That's how bad things are.
That it'll help them, I think, but it's not. I don't think it's going to change it. I know you're not a big fan of polling, but
Not at
I
all.
I've been watching a lot of it just to see what they're saying on both sides, in many states. And I don't look at the Fed. When you look at, say, NBC News did a poll, they polled the whole country. They asked 1,100 people in their poll of likely voters, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And somebody did this. How many of them? What was the breakdown of the poll? How many of them were women? How many of them were men? Just by gender, it was something like 55-45. Well, that's going to skew the poll in favor of the Democrats, right? That's how
Correct.
polling is a failure. But
Hmm.
ones that are a little bit more reputable, ones where they have looked at that are a little more in the middle, that type of stuff, they got Trump ahead. And if they're saying Trump's ahead in their polls, he's ahead by a lot because
I
they
agree.
skew left,
I'm
including,
still
by the
predicting
way, New York.
306 plus votes in the electoral college, and I'm actually thinking now. I just came back from New York, and I got to tell you a couple things. Driving up there, I went up the eastern coast, and which is 13 going north by the ocean up there in Maryland in specific. Okay.
Delmarva Peninsula.
Yep. If you go in there, last time I was through there, 2020, you couldn't look left or right without running into a Biden Harris sign. I mean, it was just everywhere. Now, this time, there was a scarcity of signs, but it was probably 3-1 Trump when they were up there. And that is a
That's
tremendous,
telling. Yeah.
that's very telling. And then you get to New York and you start looking around in New York, especially when I went to upstate.
Oh,
And
well, what you call upstate and what actually is upstate are two different things.
well, yeah, well, upstate is defined as everything north of where I am. For example, if you live in the Bronx, Westchester's upstate.
Westchester's anything but upstate, but go on.
But as I even went through New York, they're actually, you and I talked a little while ago about the possibility of it being very close in New York, not him winning it, but in them making it close enough to take the popular vote along with the electoral vote. And I think it's possible from what I saw.
Again, I was looking at dozens of different things about the polling, and they have the consensus probably is somewhere they have Harris up 5-7 in New York, which sounds like a lot. Biden was up 20 plus prior to the election and took something like, I don't know, 80% of New York City, right? New York City may go for Trump. And if that happens, New York goes red.
It's over. Yeah, because half the
Um,
votes in the state are coming out of New York to start.
People are pissed in New York. Everybody I know that, because my family's up there, everybody up there, they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to vote for Trump or they're not going to vote at all. So there's a lot that will never vote for Trump, but they're going to vote by not voting, which, again, that's basically a vote for Trump.
There's a theory that you look at, and people don't understand that when you convince someone to come, say, from Democrat to Republican, that's actually a plus two because
Yeah,
you're losing one here and you're gaining one there, so it ends
exactly.
up being plus two. If you get someone to just not vote for who's on their side and just decide to sit it out, that's a plus one.
Yeah.
Because you're decreasing what the other side is looking at.
And it's going to be quite telling. Which, speaking of telling, it's time to tell our viewers that it's time to take another break.
Right. And then remember, you look at the top of our screen, you see all the places you can find us.
Oh, hold
So
on, I
stay
just changed
tuned.
it. There it is.
All the places we can be found. So hang in there. We got one more wrap up and we're done. Welcome back for our final segment of Reclaiming America. We've had some interesting discussion about what's going on both disastrously in many, many states with the hurricane that came through and beat up on everything. And we've discussed the debate where we have some slight disagreement, where, my partner over there doesn't understand the finer things of life, which I
Oh,
represent, the
brother.
more cultured side of the house, whereas he's that rough and ready, kick him in the.
I'll just remind you. What is today as we're filming this? It's the first week of October. I seem to remember about a year ago, for over a year, you telling me just wait till September 30th. Republicans are going to get spending under control. Well, now we're a full 12 months past your deadline, and they still haven't done it. So, enough said.
Did I give you a year?
You told me, yeah.
All right, let's go on to something serious. It's time to discuss the strike that was going on, and right now, after 3 days or so, it's been postponed or at least ended for.
Postponed is the right way to put it.
Good. If you're not aware, and I don't know how you cannot be, the longshoremen from basically from Texas up to Maine on this side of the country went on strike for more money. They were offered a 50% raise over 6 years. Wasn't enough. They want 77%, which is an interesting number.
But you also, Bill, you need to put context on that. 50% raise on an average salary of six figures.
That's true. They can make 100,000 more or less than you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But they also want a guarantee, and this is probably the most important issue there, that they don't automate their jobs out of existence. So, you're looking at the fact that we have more and more ships coming in, more and more cargo coming in, and we're not going to upgrade to make it much more efficient, which is not really too bright. But anyway,
Yeah,
they went out on strike. They gave them the notice. They went out on strike. They shut things down. And, like certain ports went from 30 ships backed up to 50 to 60 ships back up. People have already been out there buying everything off the shelves because they know we're not going to have it.
It's funny because I've talked to people in other parts of the country. We live in a port, right? The port of Wilmington. So we're right on the quote unquote front lines of it. There's no toilet paper to be found in our area or paper towels, which, by the way, none of that comes through our port.
Correct.
But other parts of the country, they're like, what do you mean there's a run on toilet paper? What are you talking about? They just, it blows their minds. But yeah, the local Costco here where we are had not one line running around the building, but two. Literally got wiped out of toilet paper.
They were, well, that was the last time too. Toilet paper and everything else is gone. You see, I don't have that problem because I've already got my boxes of it.
I got my hoarding stash too, but
I got enough there. So
I'm sitting here going,
good.
People are idiots, Bill. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. And then they're trying to claim they're buying them to send out to the people in need out west. And I'm like, what a load of horse shit. Okay.
The other thing that was perfect that I heard from somebody yesterday, that she had to go out and buy milk, bread and meat before they didn't get off the cargo ships.
There's a run on heavy cream of all things, by the way.
Yeah, but guess what?
I know,
last time I checked, we're not importing milk. We're not importing eggs. We're not importing bread. And the meat is coming local. 90% of it are better. So, we're making it something that doesn't exist into something that's an issue.
Our local Walmart, I stopped in to get heavy cream. There is none. There's no heavy cream. There was no half and half. Shelves were empty. I'm like, what the hell? They get that from the dairy farmers. That ain't coming from China. All right. What's going to be a struggle when they go back out on strike? Not if. Mark my words. Save this. Bookmark it. Because once Trump wins, because they've only postponed it till January 15th to hammer out.
Coincidentally, 5 days before they end.
To hammer out details. This whole thing's going to blow up. Mark my words. That's my prediction.
And you know what? You may be right on this one. I think you score up to -2.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it off air. We both know what happened. They went out on strike, and a call was made from the Harris campaign, from Biden's office,
or Obama's,
probably all three of them, and said, "You are going to cost us the election if you do this." And unions being unions decided to, we'll play this little game, we'll postpone it for 3 months, and then they've set Trump up, right? Because I'll say if, you'll say when Trump wins. He goes into office, and a week before they've gone on strike, when is all the shortages going to start showing up?
Right after he
Right
takes
after the
over.
organization. Right. So, I mean, it is. We're not that stupid, people. You'd have to be a fool
We
not to
are.
see what's going this on. Well, some people are.
Unfortunately, there are a bunch of people that are. Common sense is not all that common.
And again, who's going to get hurt? And what people don't realize is when you're talking about that kind of a pay hike, I have no problem with people getting raises. I think it's a legitimate concern, by the way, on the automation because they'll automate them right out. It's easily done, right? Other countries have basically done that.
Well,
So I can get where they need to put
the
something
auto
in.
workers have gone through automation. I mean, automation is all over the place. What they would probably do with the union is they would set things up so the last person retires, that job goes
Yeah,
automated.
yeah,
So they,
yeah.
they'll eventually work it that way so nobody loses money.
But like, a year ago we were talking about the auto strike.
Mhm.
And the unions won, and yet there's plant after plant closing, right?
Well, that's because they won the right to make electric cars
How's that working out for you?
real well if you're
Uh,
a battery seller.
but when you look at the port situation and the longshoremen and how much money they already make, to want a 70+% raise on top of that, what people don't seem to understand, because I've heard a ton of people going, yeah, go get them, get all the money you can, blah, blah, blah. If you think for 1 second the companies are going to pay that, it's going to get passed right on to us.
Well, just like someone was the other day, I was listening to them. They brought on the manager of the port of not LA, but the one San Diego.
Mhm.
And he was talking about the fact that they knew this was coming and they have boosted up their cargo capability. So the other day they did 917,000 tons of cargo that they were, which was a record for them. And they said they're not at capacity yet. But so right away they're all singing, well, that's great. We can handle it that way. No one's looking at the fact if you're now sailing from New York to around the horn and getting up there to devote that, it costs more ship time.
Mhm.
It costs more funding to get there. Then you get there and you either have to put the stuff on rail or truck and take it across country again. None of that's going to make it cheaper.
At a time where people can't even get enough, don't have enough money to put food on the table. You
Yeah,
know,
choice of food or fuel.
I mean, it is, and like we just said, some of them are lapping this up. It's a good thing. This is great. Blah blah blah. Middle class. I mean, I'm actually scared, Bill. Not that I ever thought a lot of people were the brightest bulbs in the bunch, but they are taking it to whole new levels with how they just lap things up, not realizing that if there is a strike or if they get the raise, we lose either way.
Well, one of the problems they're looking at is they want the same money that they gave the West Coast a year ago.
Yeah,
And that's what the issue is. But the cost of living is different in both
you're
places.
comparing California to Wilmington, North Carolina. Two different,
Exactly.
you know. And I don't begrudge people getting raises, but even if you say inflation is 10% over 4 years, say that's 40% increase, not 77. And I'm not sure exactly what the length of time are. That's not what inflation is anyway. It probably will be, but um, it all gets.
When you think about that, I think we should clarify to our listeners something that most people don't realize. When I told someone the other day, they didn't understand it. For example, inflation dropped from 9% to 2% this last month, 2 point something. Okay. So they're thinking, well, that means prices should go down. No,
No.
that what that means is that it's only going to go up by 2% versus nine from the
Exactly.
time before it. It's still not going to get cheaper.
They don't. I've had similar conversations about eggs of all things, because now eggs are back up to over $5 a dozen in some spots. It's people just do not understand how this works, and you know, I'll just throw out. There's a wonderful economist, Professor Saint Onge. He's got a Stonge. You can find him on YouTube, TikTok, and all that. Does daily videos about this stuff and calls it like it is. And if you listen to him, and he's far more knowledgeable than you and I are. He's saying it's going to be a disaster in the very near future, and we haven't even seen the worst of it. It's sad that people are, and they're going to vote based on, well, she's for the middle class. Okay, you believe that. You
Oh, yeah.
believe that. You know, they were going to build back better. How'd that work out?
Yeah, but we're going to give everybody $25,000 to buy a house,
And a
which will
realtor
push the
took,
prices up.
yeah. So the realtor's like, well, first of all, that would make, everybody's going to raise the price of their house 25,000 because it's now available, first of all. Second of all, that means the realtors are going to get paid more. So she did this whole thing where that free $25,000 was going to cost, and I don't remember the exact number, but basically it was going to cost you, I'm just going to throw out $40,000. So,
That sounds good. And that's unfortunately the way they think.
because you got to realize, all right, we give you 25,000, they bump the price up 25,000. That's just the purchase price. It affects all the taxes, property, school tax now go up. Your realtor makes more because they get paid on a percentage. She did this whole wonderful thing on it. And oh, by the way, who's going to pay that?
And by the way, many states sell stamps based on the cost of your house, which raises their cut again.
Yep. So it's the biggest.
Now, what do we got? 2 minutes,
You
maybe?
got about a little less than 2 minutes, but go. We'll go
Okay,
long.
but before we go further, we need to take a minute and remind everybody that early voting is started in many, many states. It will be starting in North Carolina on the 17th of this month. We need you to get out and vote. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you whether you'd like to vote, but it's more important that you do vote. Okay, I need everyone to get out there and vote. Now, my response to this is we need to turn out so many votes that all the cheating the Democrats will have won't make a difference. We just have to flood it with votes, legitimate voting, and we want you to vote early. We want you to
And
vote early
often.
for a lot of reasons. Not often, just early. Uh,
I
and
had to throw
there's
it
a
out
lot
there.
of reasons for that. First of all, you know, with an older population, on election day, you may not be feeling good. The weather may be terrible. You can't get out there. If you can get, you don't want to stand in a 2 hour line to vote.
They
So you
also
get there
might
when
play
it's short,
games. The power suddenly goes out.
all the above. So you get there and vote while you can get your vote counted. And secondly, you'll save phone calls from people because they're going to be looking at the list saying who hasn't voted yet and call you. So if you want to get stopped with the phone calls, get it done early. And the other thing I want you to do is vote the entire ticket. Don't just vote president and
Well said.
whatever. Go from top to bottom. Now, I will tell you from a viewpoint, the lieutenant governor is running for governor. He would make a good governor. We need to elect him. However, if for whatever reason he does not win, it is super important that we keep a super majority in the General Assembly because we don't overrule anything the governor does, and more importantly, we have to elect Bishop to the Attorney General, so we get an Attorney General that will follow the law and enforce the law rather than be selective. Now, with all that said, I'm going to turn it back to my co-host.
To wrap it up. See, you just took all my time, so now I have nothing to say. All I'm going to say is yes, get out and vote. Early voting, I love it. Basically, you can walk in, vote, and get out, as opposed to, I think was it last year or the year before? I didn't early vote, and it was like 2.5 hours to vote, and
2 years ago, the 22, there were lines all over the
yeah,
place.
and that wasn't even a presidential. This one's going to
No, the
be
highest rank was
a
Senator
senator, I think. Yeah,
Senator Bud.
this one's going to be a nightmare. Get out and vote early. I
And
joking
speaking of that,
say often.
this is just a thought.
Oh, here he goes
No
again.
one's come up with a plan yet for the western part of the country, or the western part of the state to vote.
Ooh, I hadn't even considered that.
And that's a major issue that's got to be dealt with in 2 weeks.
Wow. There is no way they're going to be able to vote.
Yeah,
There's no place
no
to
one's come up
vote.
with a plan yet.
Wow. And who would be responsible for that? Seriously. That would be the
Board of
election
Elections,
board of
state board of
elections.
elections sets
Okay.
the policy.
So,
The General Assembly can tell them to do something, but they're not in session. And by the time they get it
but
passed,
even
they got
you can't even fault the
governor.
governor on this. It's the board of elections, right?
There's board of elections who, by the way, are 3-2 Democrat because the sitting governor gives you the third vote. So, so they have the 3-2 Democrat vote right now, and they can pass what they want to pass. However, someone better make some decisions quickly because a large part of this state is going to be in trouble voting, and that's not fair to anybody.
Basically everything west of Charlotte.
Well,
That's the
yeah,
way you got to look.
no,
If you want to see how bad it is, people, just go to a map, find Charlotte, North Carolina. Everything to the west of it is gone. And
You
that's
can
not to,
see Asheville on your map. Take an eraser out.
yep. And that's not to take anything away from the other states. Eastern
No,
Tennessee, hammered. Parts of South Carolina, Georgia, just same level of
you know,
devastation. So,
one of the things I hadn't seen for a while. Speaking of that again, uh, I was actually watching a video with the caskets coming down in the water. I had not seen that since they went to New Orleans and they had the flooding and everything came up. But it was so bad there were actually closed caskets floating by
oh yeah.
in the raging water. So I mean, what else can you do? Anyway,
Wrap it up,
it's
Bill.
time for us to say good evening and thank you for listening to us. And we want you back next week. And our partner will be back next week, who's better looking than both of us combined. And again, Reclaiming America. Look at the top of the screen. There's all those wonderful places you can find us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and most of all, vote.
See you
Thanks,
next time,
everyone.
folks.